Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome in to this evening's racing once again. F4 around this time in Spain, in Catalunya. So we are racing around the full circuit, and we do have a little bit of a different run through this week. We're jumping straight into it because straight after this stream, after this broadcast, you will have the NXTGEN F4. But we have an hour and 15-minute race, so there's no two-race event this evening. It is one single race of an hour and 15, so very much an endurance race for these guys. And we're going to be jumping straight into it here as I bring you your grid up on screen. Then we have Jason Landry, P1, Nigel Stock in P2, Lee Holmes, P3, Alistair Hatcher, P4, Isaac Doble, P5, Dan Morey, P6, James Becker, P7, Mikhail Andreasen, P8, Reese Saunders, P9, then we've got Mark Sykes, P10, Robert Sunick, P11, Ian Craigle, P12, and then James Parker in P13. So on to the race. And there we go. In fact, the lineup has completely changed. It's back to front almost for Robert Sunick, who we just read out was at the back of the grid. But apparently, no, he's not, as he leads the way into P1 on the outside line. Number 4 takes the inside. That's Dan Morey. And taking the inside line, he does indeed, as he now clears off up front, leading the entire pack out here. So a very clean start for everyone so far. James Parker, a man on a mission, that car number 20, involved in a lot of action last round out, and I'm sure there'll be plenty more to come this evening as well. You do see the cars starting to spread out a little bit already, and this is going to be one of those long races, so there's going to be plenty of opportunity to form some overtakes. No need to rush anything for these races. And what we'll do as well for you is we'll get the good old track map up. Is covered up a little bit by the sponsors, so we'll just drop the sponsors for a few laps, so you guys can get an idea of where these guys are and what they're fighting for as well. And we'll do the same with the battle box for you. You can see positions gained and lost, not necessarily going to be 100% true, as the good old timing screen did not catch on to the grid order, as you could tell from when I read it out, and it was completely wrong once we got out and underway. And already battle for the top spots is heating up at the moment as we look towards Isaac Doble, someone we haven't seen in a few weeks. Here is the man, the myth, the legend. On the outside line, he's sitting P4 at the moment. Find out with Reese Saunders, who's now going to find himself on the inside line there. You can see them going side by side through the left-hander. And that time that we saw starting to stretch out where Nigel Stock currently is has come down ever so slightly. But he's balancing on that 1 second mark at the minute. If he can, he needs to try and close that gap ever so slightly, just to pick up the slipstream, or the toe down the straights. That would be perfect for him. And the Google Chrome livery there, and a slow one for James Becker. Back underway at full speed once more. Car number 22. Getting around onto the start-finish straight. Currently P11 at the moment, but sat right in behind that top 10. And apologies, I got the wrong corner. Now we're on the start-finish straight. Just tucked up behind the 499 of Mark Sykes. Looks up towards the inside there. Mark's going to have to do a good job to defend this outside, and I don't think he's going to get it. In fact, he's lost another position to Mark's sight, not Mark's sight, sorry, Dan Morey. And Dan Morey, car number 4, does push up one position. He's now find himself just outside top 10. James Becker, however, has just tucked inside of that top 10 car positions. And here's a man at the back of the pack at the moment, Ian Craigle. And, well, he's not far off, to be fair. It's not like there's massive gaps. There's still a large space between Nigel Stock and Alistair Hatcher. But that will come down any potential moment as well. If Nigel can string up a few good corners, he can really bring that time down. You can see it is actually coming down to the car ahead, and that's Alistair Hatcher. And there's massive amounts of cars there turned around, facing the wrong direction. Andreasen is one of them, and unfortunately Ian Craigle is another. That's going to affect his race, and now you can see some gaps have formed. One of the biggest gaps we can see out there at the moment is this one for Jason Landry. To give you an idea, this is his view up the start-finish straight. See how far away the cars are up into the distance. There they are. There's the pack just ahead of him. And you can see just behind that 22, James Becker. He's searching for it at the moment, looking for that position, looking to try and move up one spot on this strong field, I have to say. 13 cars in total out there this evening, and with just under 1 hour 10 minutes to go in what has to be called an endurance race. Another way to really describe it. Technically, they're getting 5 minutes less of racing than what they normally would. No, they're not. I've calculated that wrong. They're actually getting 5 more minutes, sorry. Because normally we do a 20-minute race, followed by a 50-minute, with 5 minutes warm-up in between. And, well, the good thing about this racing this evening is once you start, you don't have to worry about stopping after 20 minutes. You can get into your groove and try and maintain your groove throughout the session. As we see here, the number 4 going side by side. That is Dan Morey, looking to go up to P7. He does so indeed, gets his car out in front, steals that position away there from Nigel Stock. Single file traffic once more. I think we're going to see a lot of that and a lot of drafting as well this evening. There are some tight turns around this circuit, and that is one of them that we've just been around. And well, apart from that, a lot of the corners are steady and sweeping corners, so they're actually not too bad sitting directly behind another vehicle. You get washed out a little bit here and there, but nothing too major. So these cars should be able to handle it fairly well. Just on board with Dan Morey at the minute, but let's check on Rhys Saunders and see how close he's getting to that leader, and that is car number 8 there in your picture. That is Rhys, and he's chasing down Lee Holmes at the minute, who's in P1, car number 35. Lee Holmes always in amongst it, and fighting quite hardly amongst the grids as well in this F4 season. So he's currently leading the way, 3 tenths down on him. Nearly 4 tenths is Rhys Saunders, but that's not very far at all. You see that time coming down. Look at the draft. It really is strong in these cars. It's difficult to lose someone unless you just have sheer pace over the top of them. It's very, very difficult to get away from another vehicle in these classes. These open wheel cars like to hold on forever. You can see there from Rhys Saunders and Lee Holmes, both of them really relying on the grip from this car and the downforce to carry them through the corner with as much power as possible. Time is now starting to go up, so you can see where Lee Holmes' strengths are, and that'll be the two corners that have just gone. Managed to put an extra tenth or two between the front two cars, so it's always a positive thing that these drivers, as much as they have going on, need to try and keep an eye out for, see where they're strong enough, and to make a gap. I think this chase for the lead is going to be on. You can see how close the times are there. 141.547 and 141.558. So there literally is nothing between the two cars at all. But once again, that drafting coming in clutch there for Rhys Saunders. You can see within a tenth and a half of your leader now down the start-finish straight. I've just seen a change of position there for Robert Sunic and Isaac Doble, but they are fighting it out at the moment. Robert Sunic trying to hold on to P3, but now going to have to go on a counter-attack and see if he can grab that position back from Isaac Doble before the lap's out, because unfortunately Isaac Doble is one of those drivers that once past you, he will slip away lap by lap, and he'll get out of your grasp before you know it. So at the minute, the drafting will be strong, but let's jump back to your leader, because speaking of drafting, you know what straight they're coming up to now, don't you? And, well, 2.5 tenths, just a little less than that, is all that splits the two at the moment. And you know that is going to come down when we get to this straight. See there, Rhys Saunders doing a very good job to keep that gap as low as possible. He knows the move is coming, it's just a case of when. And is it going to be this time around? 2.5 tenths. Don't know if it's coming down quite quick enough yet, but we're getting there. Towards the latter half of the straight now, you can see the number 8 moves to the inside line. Well and truly side by side now, nothing between the two, and he does take the lead. So change of lead for the Fall of Falls then. The 35 car has fallen down to P2, and the number 8 has pushed up into the lead of this race, and that's Rhys Saunders. Dan Morey currently into the pits at the moment then. So Dan Morey possibly coming in for a routine stop. Can't see any damage on there from this angle anyway. See as he comes to, in fact he might be gone potentially. We might have lost Dan Morey unfortunately early on in this race. Incredible at the minute. Lacking a little far behind the rest of the drivers. Keep moving our way up the grid. Mikkel Andreasen just a couple of seconds off now. Then Mark Sykes also just 3 or so seconds off that P9 spot. He's sitting in P10 at the moment, so he's rounding off that top 10. But he's got to be careful because Sykes does have Andreasen not too far behind. Hatcher needs to keep his eyes on his mirrors soon if Sykes can pick up the pace ever so slightly. Nigel Stock currently on the hunt for this man here, car number 20 of James Parker. go up the field one more time, we can see P6 here at the minute, James Becker, who is trying to close that gap down to Landry. It's just in front there, the red and white livery car. Isaac Doble going for a move up the inside line, and he does make it stick in the end, but around the outside for Robert Sunik, and he's done a very, very good job there. Awesome defensive work to keep hold of that P3 spot. And I think this could be once more one of those battles that could go down to the wire and could last majority of the race as well, as already that's the first 15 minutes gone. So if you think about how quick that first 15 has gone by, then we could be looking at what you would expect to be a long race being quite a short race actually. I'd say it's roughly around the length of a slightly shorter Formula 1 Grand Prix. About an hour and 50, I think it's about an hour and 20-ish for a Grand Prix, so just 5 minutes shy of that. But it's going to feel like a Grand Prix for some of these, as it's going to be a long time in the car. A couple of pit stops along the way as well. Now the question will remain and will be who takes tyres, who doesn't, and if they take tyres, what tyres do they replace? Fronts, rears, lefts, rights. Which one is it going to be, and what set are we going to get? As you can see, Isaac Doble at the moment, James Becker, sorry, doing the quickest lap at the moment. Isaac Doble trying to close down that gap, but he's not going to do enough by the end of the straight, unfortunately. So he's just going to have to settle in behind and wait for another time to strike. The time certainly isn't now. See the gap now starting to come down ever so slightly between these two. Once again, Doble on the attack. 2 tenths now is all that splits these two cars. A little less than that as they go around the left-hander, up the right-hander and up the hill. This next corner is a tricky one to gauge sometimes. Trying to make sure you get your line right, because the power that you're putting down through the corner, that could easily send you off track. Without hesitation at all there, so you need to make sure that your line is pinpoint and you really are on the money with that corner, because it could be vital in your race, and well, who knows, could potentially send you off into the barrier, because we all know what cars are like once they get into the gravel or the grass. They could go anywhere. So that's one of the things these drivers need to try and keep in mind as they go around here in sunny Spain, as we come around to complete another lap 10 at the moment. There we go, now on to lap 11. Leader has crossed the line, 41.358 for Lee Holmes. Quickest time of the session so far. He has gone purple in all sectors. And once more we see Isaac Doble up the inside. He does get his nose out in front this time, but Robert Sunik defended this position from the outside before, and he looks like he's he was nearly going to do it again. Unfortunately not quite enough, and Isaac Doble does make it through, but he's forced himself wide after touching the gravel, and Robert Sunik's going to come into the action once more, and he's actually going to get his nose in front this time. He's got to try and sit on that inside line. Isaac Doble doing his best to defend it, squeezing up as tight as he could, but that did drift him wide again ever so slightly, so that means that we have a switch of positions there. Robert Sunik now in P3, and Isaac Doble unfortunately fallen down to P4, but the fight is not over yet. It's still going to carry on, as we see Reece Saunders at the minute leading the way, and Lee Holmes quickest lap, last lap around. Question 1, can he maintain those quick lap times? Question number 2, when is he going to take the lead of this race? Because we know it's coming, we've seen the pace, and question will be, when is he going to land that punch? Reece Saunders at the moment 2 tenths in the good. Does currently have the lead of the race, but it's going to be a tricky one to keep hold of. As I said earlier, Lee Holmes always in amongst the battles, always giving it the best he can in terms of the fighting, and no doubt will continue to do that here this evening. Now here's the thing to remember as well. These cars, they're quite light cars, very simple as well, a simplistic version of an F1 car. Obviously they are Formula 4, so they are the 4th Formula car in the listings. Obviously self-explanatory, but for those that don't know, you've got the F1, F2, F3, and then we are here with the F4s. One of the most popular cars in the UK Championships as well. Not only on track, at your local tracks, but also on the iRacing sim. Is one of the most popular open wheel cars that is out there to date. Wonderful car to drive, plenty of downforce in it as well, as these guys will be showing here this evening and putting out onto display. You will see some of these cars go around some of those corners that don't look very sharp. You will see them put their foot down and absolutely destroy the corner, because they're able to keep the sheer power and pace throughout it as well, thanks to the downforce from these cars, from their spoilers, from their wingtips. Everything aerodynamic on this vehicle is a massive green tick in the box. So a wonderful design of a car. It's brought us some fantastic racing as well. Gives people a chance to get a taste for open wheel. Not necessarily Formula 1 due to how slow these are compared to the real thing, but it will give you a feel for how things work in the open wheel world, because it is slightly different to the tin top world. So in terms of the battling, you may see people battle ever so slightly closer than what you'd been used to if you take the wheelbase of these cars. Obviously your bodywork would be roughly lined up with the wheels. However, you do see battles where these cars like to cross over each other's wheels. And what I mean by that is when you're side by side with the vehicle, you get close enough, your wheels are almost touching their bodywork, so it looks like it's inside the car if you were to draw a box all around the line of those tyres. So it can make battling a little more fierce and a little closer as well, but all to more fun with these vehicles. It is nothing but fun when racing Formula 4s. And we are certainly going to see that this evening as the battles continue with the number 8 of Reece Saunders and 35 of Lee Holmes. 2 tenths between those two, and the time is fluctuating, so the pressure is on for your leader at the minute, Reece Saunders. Got a long while to go, and I imagine it's going to be a 2 pit stop race. You got a main pit stop where they might get some tyres, we'll see. And then I imagine that we could see a splash and dash later on in the race as well. But only time will tell that. I could be wrong. I'm predicting a 2-stop strategy here. And for anyone joining us in the live this evening, I would like to welcome you. It is obviously a longer race, so I can take a minute out here and there to chat with you guys as well and see how it's all going. But welcome in to Next Gen Formula 4. We are in a slightly different format tonight. Just the one race. There's no 2 race setup here, so normally we would have qualifying as Reece Saunders comes into the pits there, so we'll get back to that in just a moment. Lee Holmes carries on. That'll be interesting to see whether Reece can end up in P1 after the pit stops have been completed. As obviously Lee Holmes is now going to try and put some time on to his rival, should we say, of Reece Saunders. And it could make it out to be a close race, but all the cars are now starting to spread out a little more. But back to what we were talking about, this is a one race setup. Normally we would start off with our good 20-minute qualifying, then we have a 20-minute race followed by 5 minutes warm-up / cooldown, whichever way you would like to look at it, and then after that we'll have a 50-minute feature race. However, this time it is just one sole race, and that is an hour and 15 minutes. Now bearing in mind we are nearly 25 minutes in already, we don't technically have long to go at all. If my maths serve me correctly, we have about 45 minutes. That's incorrect. We have 40 minutes. I told you my maths weren't going to work. In fact, we don't even have that. My maths is all over the place. I've lost the plot, I think, here. We have 50 minutes. There we go. No, that's still wrong. My maths is terrible. I think it is 40. This is a moment to forget. So, anyone watching, I welcome you in. And I apologise for my terrible maths. It's been a very long day. So I sincerely apologise there for the massive, horrendous slip-up by me. But let's go back to someone that isn't slipping up so far, and that is Isaac Dybel. Maintains a successful P3 at the moment, into the pits as well. Robert Sunik also going into the pits there. You can see the top three actually into the pit lane this time around. Let's jump on to Lee Holmes then, see what's going to happen with him. Let's see if they take any tyres. Now the key thing to do here is to watch the car and see if it goes up. The best way to do that... are we going to see him there? We're not quite going to see him there. It's going to be a little distant. It looks like no pits. No tyres, apart from Jason Landry. Jason Landry, there you go. You can see how his car went down and then he left the pit lane. That implies on this sim that there have been tyres taken. So Jason Landry not done anything against the rules because he's allowed to take tyres. However, we weren't sure who's taken tyres and if at all, and if they were, the question is when they were going to take them. And well, that man on your screens, he has taken a set of new rubbers. And he's going to be looking to try and swing this his advantage. At the minute, as you can see, the times really do start to scale up and drift apart at this point in the race, and that's going to naturally happen over the course of this session. We might see some cars get a bit closer together towards the end of the race. Now, depending on fuel tank size, and I don't think they're going to be massive in these cars, they might need a splash and dash towards the end of this race. We're approaching that half an hour mark. We're going to have 45 minutes left. So it is going to be a bit of a stint to do. Now, if they didn't start with full tanks at the start of the race, then we could see them in maybe one more time for a splash and dash. But if that was a full tank that these guys used at the start, Jason Landry up the inside line there. Car number 5 moving up into P6. But the defence is going to come back for James Becker, who does try and get his nose in front momentarily, but loses it again to Jason Landry, who just showed that the counter-attack there from James Becker wasn't enough, wasn't strong enough, and he gains that position back once more. So those two back into single-file traffic. Oh, and there's contact there. Unfortunately, James Becker into the back end of Jason Landry, and I think that's going to cost Becker some time, big time here, and that has indeed. Nigel Stock, I think it's Nigel Stock, going very slow there for a second, or it might have been Robert Sunik actually. Very slow indeed, as we just saw that contact. That'll be an interesting sight to see if James Becker actually goes into the pits. I'm not too sure if he will have any wing damage on that front wing splitter, but we will soon find out for this when they get around this lap. We'll see if Becker's car ends up in the pit lane. Don't you just love it when your game drivers are ready when you're trying to do a race broadcast? Thank you very much, NVIDIA. As you see, Robert Sunic tight onto the rear end of Jason Landry's car then, number 5. There they go around, and oh, just as we switch back to him, he's going to see if he's coming into the pits. He's not. He's going to carry on going around. James Becker, unfortunately, was going around, but not around on the lap, around in circles as he spins out on the final turn. And gets his foot down again now. Trying to get back up to speed. Those tyres are going to be a little hot, I imagine, just for a few moments. But we will have tyre management in this race. And that will be a key factor as well. Who manages their tyres better? Who can do the better job of keeping those tyres, should we say, de-scrubbed, and keep that grip on them as well. We saw Jason Landry obviously get a new set of tyres on at the moment. He is the closest gap on the field, so we'll stick with him for a few laps more, but he's going to have the freshest set of rubber out there. And does that mean that, yes, we may see 2 pit stops, and it'll be the next pit stop that we see some of these guys replace their tyres? Has Jason Landry done it early in the hope that this works out better for him, because his tyres would already be worn in, and may not take as long to get him up to temperature later on, seeing as he won't be changing them, I imagine. The question is he going to be able to keep these until the end of the race? Now, just under 45 minutes left in this race. It's going to be a close call, but it's certainly going to be a challenge for Jason Landry. If he can pull it off, this could gain him quite a lot of time, to be fair. But at the end of the day, this is just speculation. We don't know. He might make another pit stop where he takes another set of tyres. We're not too sure, so we won't know until obviously he comes into the pits himself. Judging on how they came in not too long ago, as Jason Landry moves up into P5, wide for Robert Sunic, so concedes position unfortunately for Sunic. But these guys did just come in for their first set of pit stops. We saw more or less the entire group come in on the same lap, which was a little later than those at the top of the field. And Jason Landry unfortunately spins around, and those new rubbers haven't really done him many favours this far, and he's conceded another position, so down into P7 now for Jason Landry. Not the most ideal situation for Jason there, unfortunately. We look up towards James Parker. James Parker currently in P4 at the moment, car number 20, looking towards the outside line, and he's gone for an interesting attack because people normally go up the inside there, but look at this, the second part of the S's there at the very beginning of the lap working in his favour, but not enough. There's a little bit of contact between the two cars. You can see them have a quick reaction to that, and the steering shake. As you see, once again, they're coming close together. They're trying to put each other off big time here. The racing could get a little feisty as the wing nearly touches the rear left tyre there on the Isaac Doble car, and James Parker up the inside. The cutback possibly on for Isaac Doble. Unfortunately not, though. Not able to secure that position back. Can he get his nose just up alongside? He's letting a little bit there from James Parker, but again, it's not going to be enough. James Parker is going to walk away with the spot, and a good position at that as well. Isaac Doble unfortunately lost a little time thanks to that. Now finds himself 6/10 behind. So once more, the timing's really starting to open up now. And just as I say that, Mikel Andreasen Time for him is starting to come down ever so slightly. And what we'll do is we'll go down to Mikel Andreasen. Smoke up there in turn 1. It could be Jason Landry once again. He looked like the car fleeing the scene at the time, and he's slow out of that corner. And that's helped these two of Alistair Hatcher and Mikel Andreasen catch up. So here's where the fight is at the moment on the grid then. Jason Landry is going to be feeling the pressure big time as P8 and P9 right up onto the rear end of his car at the moment. Can Jason Landry keep it in check to hold these two off? They're going to be battling themselves, or they might try and work together to get Jason Landry, but seeing as how close everyone is, I don't think working together is going to be an option. It is just going to be a fight for who can get in front of this pack of 3. And I imagine that is exactly what we're going to find out here very, very shortly. So you can see it's all of 6/10 split these 3 cars. So nothing much really at all. Reece Saunders leading the way, Lee Holmes P2, James Parker P3. Isaac Doble only a couple of seconds off in the P4 then. There's a move on there, tight to the inside line, almost a spin as well for the 49. We're approaching the 40-minute mark already. Time is absolutely flying by. So we're coming up to 35 minutes left of this race. And it's getting into those latter stages now where I imagine it won't be long for those people that don't fancy. All a bit wide there for Alistair. For those people that don't want to do a splash and dash, I imagine we could be seeing a second pit stop soon for some fuel if they don't think they're going to make it all the way to the end. I imagine most people will opt in for the quick splash and dash towards the end of this race. Looks like unfortunately we've lost James Becker, and there's a bit of contact there potentially between the two cars of Alistair Hatcher and Mikel Andreasen. As Mikel Andreasen has lost a bit of time, unfortunately, nearly a second he's lost now to the car ahead, and that car of focus at the moment, Alistair Hatcher. We'll bring your class leaders up at the top of the screen. There it is. Ignore the Saunders part at the end. That's just because there's no class assigned to Saunders at the end for some reason. Even though he's under gold, but not too sure why that's popped up there. But yeah, at the moment, Reece Saunders is the leader of the race and your gold class leader as well. And Nigel Stock being the silver class leader, currently in P6. Running a good race so far. Here he is coming around the final turn then. Through the final turn. Lovely and smooth in that chrome livery there. And here goes Mikael Andreasen up the inside line, gets his nose in front, hits the sausage curb, but that hasn't prevented him from gaining a position. So he does move up by one spot. Mikael Andreasen now P8, Alistair Hatcher in P9. So they have swapped around once more. I'm sure we'll see a few more swaps during this race this evening. See, only half a second really between these two. That is again the closest gap out there on the field at the moment. We do have a 3-odd gap separated between I would say Mikael Andreasen, but that's now jumped up for Mikael Andreasen to Jason Landry. But Jason Landry, however, 3.1 seconds behind Nigel Stock at the minute. So your leader for the Silvers, and I think we have lost. Yeah, we've lost Becker and Maury, unfortunately. But Iron Craigle still marching on, stronger than ever as well. P11 at the moment, just outside the top 10. Not a terrible finishing place, but points still on board for him. And, well, Mark Sykes. Yeah, man, we don't see all too often here in the good old Formula 4s. But he's currently running in P10, car number 499 there. See him on your track map. He's in the far right-hand side. Coming down into the final right-hander now, on to the start-finish straight. You can see all these cars very well spread out indeed, and they can have some nice peaceful racing, get their heads down, get some qualifying laps in, try and find that rhythm to maintain a quick form of pace so they can solidify their position as they come across the line here in not too distant of a time. The 499 bouncing on the rev limiter then. Alistair Hatcher, the time was in the yellow zone, which is for those that don't know, on the timing tower, you can see on your left hand side of the screen the time will be white when it's over a second away from the car ahead. At the moment it's between 5/10 of a second and 9 tenths of a second. Then that is when it goes yellow, and then amber is anything 5/10 or lower. So the colours will give you a rough guide as to how close the cars actually are. You can see at the minute it's become one of them peaceful races where the cars have spread out, but this is ultimately where you find out who your strong drivers are, because it's that mentality of, okay, there's no one around me, but I'm still racing just as much as what it would be if there was someone side by side. So you need to try and gain all the time you can over your on-track rivals, and that is exactly what these guys are doing so far in this race. 43 minutes in, nearly 44 minutes into this race this evening. We are approaching the half-an-hour mark. So this race will finish around about 7 PM this evening. And I'm sure it'll be a hot one for many of these drivers as well. After driving this kind of car around for an hour and 15 minutes straight. It's not the easiest thing to do in the world. I'm sure there's people that complain day in, day out about having to drive for an hour and 15 minutes, but ultimately in these things it is an absolute blast. You gotta love it. You can drive as quick as you want, and plus you can really sling the car into the corners and take some serious speed throughout these turns as well, especially here at Catalunya, where the track is relatively warm and you have a lot of sweeping right and left handers where you can get your foot down early and almost send the car into a bit of a drift, but the downforce luckily manages to hold on to enough of you to help you around the circuit. As we can see, that time really coming down now between Mikel Andreasen and Nigel Stock, so potential issue there for Nigel Stock at some point during the lap. I think towards the latter stages of the lap as well, as the car number 69 is going to go up the inside of the 130 of Nigel Stock there. And now Nigel does need to be careful, because if you can't gain that position back, which I don't think he's going to be able to do. No, he certainly isn't. Nigel Stock does now need to just keep half an eye on his mirrors. Nothing too desperate. But Alistair Hatcher is now the car behind, so that is the P2 of the Silvers. Not going to be far away at all. And we're just under half an hour left to defend that lead of Nigel Stock's. It's going to be a tricky half an hour for him, but no doubt he can do it. I'm sure there's people out there supporting him and believing in him. As you can see, the time has gone up now between Alistair Hatcher and Nigel Stock. And once more, nothing's really changed in terms of the standings then. Cars still going around quite nicely at the moment. Over Iron Craigle, now into the pits. So that's the only thing to have changed so far. Having a look at the old gyro cam. Seems to be no movement from Iron Craigle, unfortunately. So I think we may have lost him as well. Let's check in with Rhys Saunders. See the absolute massive lead that Saunders has built up over this race. Over a course of 48 minutes and 30 seconds, he's gained a lead of 7.7 seconds. An incredible distance to break away from the pack as well. And he's not only broke away from any pack, he's broke away from Lee Holmes, James Parker, Isaac Doble as well, Robert Sunic in there and all. And again, not easy drivers to run away from, yet somehow Rhys Saunders has the answers for that. And he's managed to use his full ability to his disposal here, as he really is starting to pull away from the rest of the pack. They have as it stands right now, zero chance of catching him. As the time seems to keep going up and up and up, and I know it's a bit of a commentator's curse, however, I do believe that we could be looking at the winner for this race here this evening. Obviously, one race, so you've only got one chance to try and win it. As you see, James Parker does get by Lee Holmes, and is there a bit of team play going on there? Maybe a bit of honesty, maybe a little bit of contact between the two. But James Parker, P2 at the moment, 8.5 seconds back. So that was 7.7 at the start of this lap, it's now 8.5. So that time is climbing up, that's for sure, as we approach the 50-minute mark now of this race. You can see the two liveries exactly the same as the number 20 and the number 35, both on your screen. So number 20 is James Parker, and then number 35 is... sorry, did I say 25? I might have done. Number 20. Number 35 is Lee Holmes in P3. He's in the background of your pictures there. He's following on very nicely at the moment as well. Question is there a pending attack, or have they received, if they are in the same team, some team orders to not change the lineup? Obviously, we're down to 11 cars as well this evening. Ryan Craig, unfortunately, in the pits, and we've lost James Becker and Dan Morey completely. Good news is, however, for all the rest of the races, we are down to the top 10, so they know they can't be any lower than the top 10 positions. Again, this is one of them races where you do need to be a bit of an endurance fan to sit here and enjoy this kind of racing. It is very spread out, and you are playing the long game rather than the short game of all working on it, get this move done, and need to get in front of them as quick as possible. You don't need to do that in endurance races. Main thing is just keep your pace up there and as high as possible. There will be crash outs, there will be all sorts that are happening, trust me. But it's one of those things that you will have to deal with, unfortunately, in endurance racing. Obviously that goes for any car as well. As you see, that time between James Parker and Reece Saunders has come down ever so slightly. 7.7 at the moment. That's almost getting as low as 7.6, so instantly we're up to 10th of a second away from your leader, Reece Saunders. You can see once again as we look towards that gap, 7.1 seconds now, so the gap to Reece Saunders really is starting to come down now. One of the things by James Parker just needs to keep on doing what he's doing. He's slowly squashing out that time to the leader. It may feel like he's not doing that at all, especially since it's now bumped back up to 7.3. So you see the gap starting to close up now between Alistair Hatcher and Nigel Stock. 7/10 of a second, 7.5 of a second to be precise. See at the moment 0.6 of a second between P8 and P9. I have to admit, I do really like the chrome livery there. McLaren chrome is what we'll call it, of Nigel Stock's car. Really does stand out, nice and bright as well. Stands out, or stood out, amongst the crowd on the starting grid at the start of the race. Tom Down is coming down every single lap at the moment. Same for P2 at the moment. James Parker now 6.7 off of the leader. It's not come down as much as the two cars we're seeing on screen at the moment, but it is slowly coming down. So any progress is good progress. That's what is really in at the moment. James Parker is doing everything he possibly can to bring Rhys Saunders back to the pack, bring him back in action. It's just under 5/10. Now it's gone just under 4.5. Time's coming down, so a fantastic exit there for Alistair Hatcher. And we are approaching into the last 15 minutes, so be a good point just to get the sponsors back up onto the screen. See all the next gen sponsors there, top right corner of your broadcasts, and we have Mark Sykes into the pit lane. And a quickest lap time, 1:40.985 for James Parker, who once more is still bringing that time down. 5.8 seconds to your leader then, so he has brought that down by some margin, to be fair, over the last couple of laps. And Rhys Saunders is going to be feeling the pressure by the looks of it for the last minutes of this race, as we are nearly hitting that 1 hour mark. So that leaves us with just 15 minutes to go of racing before that is the end, which feels really odd considering we normally have 2 races as well. So it's a weird feeling, but at the same time it doesn't feel like it's been an hour. These guys have been going around for quite some time, obviously 35 laps in. It doesn't feel like 1 hour at all, really. But I will say these guys have done very, very well to keep racing to this point. Because I can tell you this, it's certainly not easy to do a sprint race in these cars. And when I say a sprint race, I'm talking 15 to 20 minutes. So to sit in there for an hour at the minute It's fantastic. To be in there for an hour and 15 by the end of the race is unbelievable. The concentration you need to keep these cars facing on a straight line, because it's not always easy. I made it sound easy earlier with the whole downforce thing. You know, the downforce basically does the work for you through the corners, all that stuff. It doesn't always, and especially if you're too slow into the corners, not maximising the grip of the car just won't work properly. So you do really need to push this car to its limits to get any good kind of performance out of it, because if you're like me and you're slow, unfortunately, it's like an initiation button, or ignition button, should I say. Nothing's going to happen, no spark is going to light until you press that button. And once you've pressed that button, that is when things will start happening, and the right things as well. So these cars are very much like that, and unless you push that button and get it onto that last bit of grip you have, then, well, you're not going to get the performance out of the car that you want. And that'll be why you fall down towards the rear end of the pack, or at the back of the pack as well. So these cars can be very competitive. It does make the racing fantastic and really competitive as well, but it does stem a problem for some people, but not realising that they really do need to send this car into the corners and really swing it about. And once they've mastered that, then it should be fairly good in these vehicles. I did learn that the hard way. The Catalunya F4, Formula 3, car's a little easier to drive in the way, where you can go slower into the corners, and the car doesn't try and spin out the moment you put any slight form of power back on. Whereas in the F4, you need to be a little bit careful, which is understandable. And then we have the Super Formula lights as well, or the Super Formula in general. They can be a bit of a handful, especially with the rear ends spinning up on those as well, because the sheer power in those cars. It's difficult to keep a roof over the top of it. You can see the time really has come down now between these two. 0.3 of a second. All that splits them this time around. Now we've seen a gap of 0.3 of a second close down between two cars on this track already so far this evening. Down this start-finish straight. We're going to see it again. It doesn't look like it. Not going to be enough. You can see it gets down to sort of around 0.2. So a tenth taken out of the car ahead. If they can now keep the gap where it is at the moment, there's a really good chance on that start-finish straight that they'll get the move done and move up a spot as well. Just under 0.3 of a second, as we have dipped into the last 11.5 minutes now, and a bit on the defensive now for Nigel Stock, trying to do what he can to maintain the lead of the silver classes. Once again, your leaders displayed at the top of your screens. Nigel Stock currently P8 overall. P9 overall of Alistair Hatcher just in behind. P1 and 2 in the silver class. Has Stock done enough to form this defence? He falls down a spot at the moment. Can he get back to it? No, he can't. He's a little wide there, but he's got the inside line this time round. He does get his nose back in front once more. and he's actually defending that really well on turn 3 there of the course. But they're still going to be side by side. The inside line once again falls to him. Now he's going to find himself on the outside of the next turn. So now this is where it starts heating up a little bit. Side by side for the majority of the lap, and they have now gone into single file at the corner where most battles do end up going single file. There's not many people that have managed to keep it side by side through here yet. Certainly be a challenge, but a good one at that as well. As yes, Nigel Stock may have lost the position, but he's now in that prime spot to try and muster up a overtake. He's got plenty of time to do that as well, because we have just gone over the 1 hour 5 minute mark. So he's got just under 10 minutes to go, but he now sits in that drafting spot. And I think he was letting off just a little bit through those corners, letting the tyres cool down ever so slightly, ready for the attack that no doubt is coming up very soon. You see 3.5 tenths at the moment. He's trying to break the toe. Is Alistair Hatcher. Nigel Stock sticking with him. That's just under 2 tenths, just under 1.5 tenths. He looked out and then come back in for Nigel Stock, so he's not going to go for the move this time round. Can he form any kind of attack onto turn 3, the long sweeping right-hander? No, it doesn't look like it. Leans on the downforce and keeps himself right up onto the rear end of that car. Let's check in with your leader then, Rhys Saunders. Again, having a nice and peaceful race. However, it needs to be careful because 4 seconds back is James Parker. So any form of mistake, slip-up or anything from now, he's unfortunately lost that lead, definitely. It's not going to be an easy one to pull back. Now Robert Sunic, who we did see up there early on in this race, still hasn't really gone down too much. P4 overall for Sunic. Not a bad spot to be in. Some good points on the board there for Sunic, and all throughout the season as well. Sunic's picked up some healthy points bonuses. See that time once more coming down between Alistair Hatcher and Nigel Stock, and in fact it's come down that much because Hatcher is into the pits. Now this is potentially the splash and dash I was referring to. Let's jump on board with Hatcher then. You can see there's this pit stop. In fact, that's not his. Straight past it. You see car hasn't risen up yet. I don't think it will either. Remains in first gear, car idling about 1,200 revs. It's getting fueled back up. The last part of this race, I imagine. It's either that or he's got some repairs going on. I think that could well be fuel. It certainly is. Pit exit now for Alistair Hatcher, who does fall quite some margin behind Nigel Stock. But if everyone's got to make the pits at some point for a splash and dash, then, well, this could work in his favour. If he can really nail those tyres in early doors and get some pace down as soon as possible, this could be a fantastic play by Alistair Hatcher. May not gain him all the positions in the world, but if it gains him just 1 or 2, anything is better than nothing. See at the minute all the times have opened up once more. The battle we were following still technically on and could be on for the long haul as well. The reason I say that is because if the other cars have to pit, what will be coming up fairly soon, this is the man that we need to keep an eye on to see if he comes into the pit lane this time round. Onto the start-finish straight, and he comes over onto the start-finish straight. I've lost the plot. I'm on completely the wrong part of the circuit there. So he has gone round one more time over Alistair Hatcher. I completely forgot of the 40+ second gap now. That's how long it took in the pits for Alistair Hatcher. He's about 48 seconds behind Nigel Stock now, and obviously those two were all of a couple of attempts apart from each other. Is it going to be an absolute splash and dash from these drivers in the last few laps, as we have just creeped onto the 1 hour 10 minute mark? It's still very much all to play for. Yes, the gaps may not be bumper to bumper, but if pit stops are still involved, and there's a potential chance we may see some, people's positions could change. Now he's coming onto the start-finish straight for Nigel Stock. What does he do? Does he come into the pits, or has he stayed out? He stayed out completely because the pit entry was a little earlier. So another time round for Nigel Stock. So it looks like at the minute no one else is getting any fuel, or doesn't need any yet anyway, as they're all carrying on. So this could have worked against Alistair Hatcher massively. As he was having a great battle. I think that may have all just been pulled away from him. So we'll focus on this man here, who's on a comeback drive of the century. 3.6 seconds to the leader. Now remember, that gap was 8 seconds. Reece Saunders had absolutely disappeared into the sunset in this race, and now it's down to 3.3 seconds. So the time really has come down indeed. Interesting gap to pick up on here is Lee Holmes, who almost 15 seconds behind P2, but he's got 5 seconds, nearly 6 seconds of a graceful gap, is what I like to call it, between himself and finishing outside of the podium spots in that P4 position, which Robert Sunic currently hosts, and as he's sitting there in P4, car number 80 at the moment, basically 6 seconds behind Lee Holmes at the moment. So Lee Holmes can't really back off too much, because if he does, he'll get swallowed up. However, he does have that bit of grace behind him where he's got time to get things rolling again in case of any mishaps or mistakes. Now let's go over to our leader. We are approaching the final moments of this race. Go on board, and that is Alistair Hatcher in front, and unfortunately this pit stop has, I wouldn't say ruined Hatcher's race entirely, but it's certainly not worked in his favour whatsoever. As we could see Barney on the home finish straight, so I don't believe this is white flag just yet. And again, there may not be any Barneys on this track. Well, that is your lead car on screen at the moment. Number 8 getting past Alistair Hatcher as he looks to let the leader by. And through he goes. 2.7 now to James Parker. The chase really is on, and I have to admit, I think if this was a 1 minute 20 to 1 minute 25 race, I think the lead could be in question. That time has been coming down very, very steadily all night long. goes round the final turn there, and once more, can't see no Barney, but it has come across the line in P1. So there's your race winner. 2.4 seconds behind is James Parker. Not very far at all. You can see him in the picture there in the background. But P1 and P2 have come across the line to finish off their respective races. And Alistair Hatcher being just behind the leader, has just been lapped once more. He is also finishing his race. For the last few cars to come across the line. Mark Sykes being one of them, someone that we don't always see out there on the circuit with us. Nevertheless, has put in a good display here this evening, picking up a P9 spot, it's looking like at the moment. And a good result for him, but a fantastic result for Rhys Saunders. And I think he'll be thankful that the race is only 1 hour 15 minutes long, because any longer, and I think that race lead could have been in jeopardy a bit there. As there he goes across the line for Mr. Sykes. As we now switch over our cameras and we go to bring you your results for this evening's racing. So, one race is all that we're going to see here tonight. And that race has now concluded. 1 hour and 15 minutes in length. Didn't really feel like an hour and 15 in total. But nevertheless, it is now all over, unfortunately. And your winner, Rhys Saunders, takes away that P1 spot, car number 8 there. James Parker in P2 and Lee Holmes in P3. Robert Sunic in P4. Isaac Doble P5. Then we've got Jason Landry P6. Michael Andreessen P7. Now we've got Nigel Stock P8. But he's got that P1 spot for his class in silvers. Mark Sykes, who I believe... well, we're going to place him in the silver category for this race anyway. Mark Sykes got P2 in the silvers and P9 overall. Alistair Hatcher gets that third podium spot in P3 in silvers, but he's got that top 10 spot in the overall positions. Then Ian Craigle P11, James Becker P12, and then we've got Dan Morey P13. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of the racing here this evening. Just one race of 1 hour and 15 minutes in length, and that's going to be all from me for today, and we will resume again next week out for more racing, back to the normal format of 2 races, a 20-minute followed by a 5-minute break and then a 50-minute race. So we will see that coming up for you here again soon. The day for the broadcast may change as well, but you will be notified about any changes needed due to the NXTCC broadcast. But I'm going to leave you for now. I know you've got a little while just to wait for the NXTCC broadcast. So plenty of time to go grab some food, grab some snacks, go show the guys some support, and really help Paul Walsh make it through that what is going to be a fantastic set of racing out there. So make sure you do get involved, join in, and we'll see you again very soon for some more racing here at NXTGEN Racing.